Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel and editorial discussion for 6th May 2022. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss an editorial from today's Indian Express which is titled Seize the Trade Moment. The editorial speaks about the crisis in the world because of geopolitical reasons, warlike situations, COVID and economic debt trap and how India can harness this situation to its advantage. It also speaks about certain ways in which India must reform to harness these capabilities, and we will go a little beyond to understand what is the situation of international trade of India lately. If you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments, and subscribes. Let's discuss. The editorial says that there have been two positions that India has been lately. One is the times during the COVID crisis and the one post this COVID crisis. During the times of 2021, while the world economy was reeling under burden, India saw a huge trade, international trade. Our international trade in merchandise, that is goods, items, it rose to 400 billion plus. And of those of services that we provide rose to 250 billion plus. Now this is a record trade that we are doing, and by volume, if we see, this rise is of 10%. Volume means the number of contracts we have had, and if you look up by the prices, we rose by 25%. We are talking of the merchandise trade, and this is a very good indicator of India's economic situation. But this proportional rise in merchandise trade with respect to the GDP, this was the rise of merchandise trade was higher as compared to the rise in GDP. But now this is going to slow down. This is what the editorial says. It says that the slowdown will be because of issues like geopolitical environment, because of multiple waves of pandemic, of supply chain disruptions which have happened. Because of this, GDP will rise, but there will be a slower rise in the export and import economy, right? Now, this is where it says India can harness a situation like this. India can utilize a situation like this. And it gives an example of couple of countries around. For example, Sri Lanka and Ukraine. Both these countries are agricultural exporting economies. And one simple example of the places which utilize these agriculture products are Africa. Why? Because around 25 nations here import agricultural products like wheat. In fact, many of these nations, 15 of these nations are dependent on 50% of their total wheat consumption with the help of imports. So, can India participate here? Yes, India can. See, we have discussed the opposing point as well. That is, wheat is one of those items which India must not export. So, but then just an example that these are the moments of crisis where India can also utilize the situation. Another example is that of Sri Lanka itself. Now, Sri Lanka has not been able to export tea properly throughout the whole world because of its crisis, economic crisis. People are not even able to do anything. So, because India is the second largest the country second largest in tea production, and just like India is also another nation which is at second largest position in terms of the production of wheat, we can export tea as well. Now, looking at another crisis that is happening in Sri Lanka, that is power crisis, because of which its textile industries are not able to work properly. International brands like Zara, H&M, all of them have got their factories there, but then they're not able to operate because of the power crisis there. Now, we will start looking for alternate destinations. This is what these brands say for factories. Now, when they look at a country like China, it is going through intense COVID curbs. Yes, China is going through strictest of COVID curbs right now, so they cannot establish their factories there. And when we come to countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Cambodia, yes, they are textile manufacturing exporting economies, but then they cannot apply that scale, that level of manufacturing required, the capacity required is not available with them, and that is why all these countries would definitely want to come to our dear India, right? But then India will not have an easy cakewalk over all this. India needs to reform some certain important sectors. For example, we will have to work on the non-tariff barriers. Now, what are these barriers? Simple barriers. For example, sanitary and phytosanitary measures are to be considered. See, these are all food products. Please remember, items like wheat, items like tea. Now, this is where we will have to consider that any item that we are exporting, be it apple or tomatoes, we will have to decrease the percentage of fertilizer input or pesticide input. We will have to decrease that. And we will also have to mention this in the labels. So we do not do that right now. And that is why most of our food items that we export to European economies and other parts of the world, they get rejected. We will have to check the hygiene requirements multiple times and the quarantine requirement of these food products also. So these are called as the sanitary and phytosanitary measures, non-tariff barriers. One. This is the first point. The second one is we will have to do away with bureaucratic norms for production for export. We will have to start looking at autonomous organizations, like creating T boards which are more autonomous, right? So we need reforms in that. Third, we need to have pacts with countries. For example, the pact that we have with UK, the pact that we have with Australia or other nations like UAE, what we are trying to negotiate with European Union economies or USA. We need these kind of pacts so that we are able to integrate ourselves with the global economy and supply chain, right? This is the third point. The fourth one, it says, is that of reducing tariff on intermediate goods. That means, see, India can either create products, or it can also assemble products. Give us the spare parts and we will assemble it here. It will at least give some economy and employment to the people. So we can do that provided we decrease the tariff on the imported part. Suppose this is the imported part, we have to decrease or eliminate the tariff here, so that we are eventually able to export this product as less at lesser cost. That's what is required. Then we will have to have those processes involved which are labor intensive, so that we create employment in the country. And we have to ensure that the FDI policy is consistent, so that people are putting in the money in the Indian economy, something that we did not have in the last year. There was a lot of fragility in FDI policy, because of which a lot of people withdrew their money from Indian markets, right? This is where we have to become sustainable and more friendly to business creation. The most important issue here is that of the logistical supplies. We have to have better roads, better logistical management systems, and the power availability of power for businesses. This is what is required. These seven things done, and then India's economy will be integrated well with the global value chain, GVC, and we will be able to operate very well and export even optimally. Now, a quick update on the situation of export in the country. The exports dramatically rose in the month of April to around $40 billion, $40 billion, and this is a huge rise as compared to the export that we had in the last year. Now, but what is saddening to know is that the imports also dramatically rose to around $60 billion in the first month of this year itself. $60 billion. Now, last year exports were 400 and imports were 600. Now, looking at this, just multiply by 12, we are looking at higher imports and higher exports this year now. So, more trade, that is good for the nation. However, more imports, the proportion of imports of petroleum is very high. One third of what we are importing is petroleum itself. So we will have to look at this and curtail down. Petroleum, coal, raw material, all these have increased in imports. Gold imports have decreased in the last month. We have increased our textile import. That is a very good thing in these present times, right? So this is the quick update here. Now, a quick question for you people. Mention 5 challenges which India must overcome to decrease the trade deficit that we have. The answer to this question is embedded in this discussion itself, but to exercise this mind, you need to put it down in the comment section. Now, if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments, and shares. And if you've got some questions, put it down in the comment section. We will ensure to get back to you. Thank you for participating.